Hello and welcome to the 2022 Global Impact Summit. My name is Patrick Brothers, co-CEO of Holland IQ, and today we're focused on Terra Quanta. I'm very lucky to have Alpha Wang, founder and CEO of Terra Quanta, with us for today's conversation. Welcome, Alpha.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Patrick. So it's my honor as well to join this conversation. It's very nice to meet you.
Awesome. Hey, Alpha, I thought we should start with your background and how you came to founding Terra Quanta. Perhaps you could walk us through that journey.
Of course. So we started Terra Quanta at 2017. I was a PhD graduate at then. So I did my PhD at University of Southern California, doing computing and algorithms. So we started Terra Quanta as an idea that if we can do a digital twin of the physical Earth, and we trying to make a search engine for the physical world so that we can help others. So that's a very vague idea at that time. But now, almost 5 years passed, and we find our customers, we find our industries, and we finally know how to actually apply these digital twin technologies to the real industries. And that's pretty much my background. And about our company, we have about 50 people based in Beijing, and most of them are engineers and scientists. Yeah, so that's a brief background.
So
about how, yeah.
When you started Terra Quanta, what were the kind of customer problems that you were thinking of solving by creating a digital twin of the Earth?
Yeah, that's a very good and very interesting question, because at the time of our founding, we have no real-world problem aimed to solve. What we're trying to do is doing a tech project. So
Right.
this thing seems fancy and seems useful. So we started to do it. But later on, like 1 or 2 years passed, we find ourselves running out of money because no one is paying for us. So, so I think that's a very interesting question. As a student, as a fresh grad, I didn't have any business experience at the time. So later on, I realized that solving a real-world problem that's useful to someone else is the key cornerstone of any startup.
So maybe starting from a technology perspective then, I mean, many people would think like something like Google Maps would be a digital twin. How do you differentiate for someone who's thinking, we already have Google Maps, what is Terra Quanta and how is it different?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. So what we're trying to do is doing many more layers above Google Maps. Of course, Google Maps is a good product, but for example, it doesn't tell you which area has deforestation, right? It doesn't tell you how much oil is in the tank. So that's all the problems we're trying to solve. We try to tell NGOs or tell governments that how the forests are growing if to prevent illegal logging. And we also, for example, we also do crop classifications, crop maps, and their growth, and to help agriculture insurance to digitize their operations. So that's just 2 examples that how we are different from Google Earth.
Really interesting. And so what you mentioned a number of different data sources or types there. Like what are some other examples of data types that you are ingesting into your kind of digital twin of the Earth?
There's well, we do a lot of data ingestion from satellite resources. That's our primary data source. We integrated about I think 100 or 150 different types of satellites to our data platform, and we're also building our own satellite. That's a carbon satellite, carbon monitoring satellite. So apart from satellites, we also use a lot of meteorological station data, ground stations that's monitoring the weather conditions, and a lot of sensors data. But all in all, the satellites are our primary data source.
Right, that's interesting. And are they open source, or do you have to purchase that, or is it proprietary? It sounds like the new carbon satellite is a proprietary data source, but those other sources, are they open and you're ingesting them, or they're proprietary?
Oh, both. So we do have business cooperations with companies like, for example, Maxa in the US, and Airbus in Europe, and some other Chinese companies. We do have business cooperations. We pay for them for their data, and also different organizations such as NASA, ESA, and Chinese Space Agency. They also offer open source data to the world. So that part of data we also use. So pretty much we pay for part of the data, and we use part of the open data.
I see. And moving on to customers, what are the common use cases that customers are using TerraQuanta for?
So we do serve different types of industries, such as forestry, agriculture, energy. In general, their problem is trying to get a cheaper way or a viable way to see the real world data that they don't have easy access to. For example, for deforestation monitoring, it's super difficult for one to physically walk through forests and measure the deforestation area. But using satellites can provide a very viable and cheap way to do that. That's one use case. Another use case is to predict the future, and it's very difficult for humans to predict the future, especially, for example, weather forecasts. You have to use machine learning. You have to use a lot of computing resources to accurately predict the weather 1 day ahead or 1 year ahead. So in general, that's two use cases. And typically, weather forecasts is a very typical use case for our entire set of applications.
So it sounds like, in addition to kind of observing data, TerraQuanta is also modeling or forecasting and doing calculations. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes.
Interesting. Super interesting. And so, what are there alternatives to TerraQuanta, or is TerraQuanta providing a new way, a new method for people to monitor the environment?
Right. We use a lot of machine learning and cloud native technologies such as Kubernetes, and we, for example, in terms of weather forecasting, most organizations doing weather forecasting right now are based on numerical models. That's consuming a lot of CPU resources and getting and solving dynamical equations such as Navier-Stokes equations to get to the weather. So that's about the industry has been performing this practice about 30 years or 40 years. But now there's a new trend to use AI, to use deep learning to solve end-to-end weather forecasts. That is to say, I don't have to know the partial differential equations. I don't have to know the atmospheric physics. All I know is I gather the data and I train a network and I predict the weather. So it's been very accurate in the short term. It's actually this year NVIDIA has a work that's called Earth-2. It's proven to be more accurate than numerical models in the short term, in about 2 days. But still, the numerical model is more superior in the long term. But still, we see the trend that's to use a new technology, a new ideology of technology to do a better weather forecasts.
Interesting, really interesting. And so, if I was a customer interacting with TerraQuanta, is it like a visual geospatial representation, or is it more looking at data outputs? How do I actually interact with TerraQuanta?
Typically for weather forecasts, we provide APIs, so it's pretty much data interaction. And we provide some Docker containers to our customers so they can easily deploy to their on-premise hardware. Yeah, so it's pretty much API based and the datas and all of the datas.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, very data heavy. And so where is TerraQuanta on the journey of you mentioned, it started really as a academic project in some respects. And when did you start to commercialize TerraQuanta, and where do you see TerraQuanta in the next 3 to 5 years?
So I do see, without considering TerraQuanta, I do see a trend of clean energy growth in the future, especially after 2018, I think, after China committed to the carbon goal, the 30-60 carbon goal. There's a clear growth of clean energy in the future, and China is the biggest market in clean energy in the world. I think the total installed capacity is the largest in the world, if I remember correctly. So we do want to help clean energies to integrate into the grid, and I do see this industry has a lot of demand in geospatial data or digital twinning data. Weather forecasts is one of them, and apart from weather forecasts, there's also load forecasts, the power load forecasts, so that we can better predict the electricity price on the market. There's a lot of things to do, and I do believe that the best application of a digital twinning is clean energy is definitely one of them. And apart from clean energy, we still serve a lot of our data to the applications that I just mentioned, like deforestation monitoring and agriculture monitoring for insurance, for banking. Back to your question, I think 2 years or 3 years from now, I do see we have a 2-layer of applications, and one layer is we focus in, for example, clean energy, and another layer is we provide data subscription to different areas of applications.
That's interesting. So I could take like purchase a feed of forestation monitoring and prediction, for example, versus energy load, prediction or modeling as well.
That's correct. Yes.
Will it always be through an API? Are you thinking about your own user interface for people to log in and interact with these, or do you see TerraQuanta staying at the kind of core data API offering?
Oh, there is indeed an interface, a web interface for people to log in and view, but the ability of the web interface is very limited because you can only view the data. You can't interact with it.
Right.
Because the way you interact with the data is to do the APIs. And we do have a web interface for viewing only.
Yeah. Can you create scenarios and change variables that the model is built around?
Not really, because we don't have any customers asking us to build this capability.
I see. That's interesting. That's super. And so can you share who some of your customers are, or who are the types of customers, just in a little bit more detail? I mean, you mentioned insurance, which makes a lot of sense and is really interesting. You mentioned kind of government organizations as well, and businesses. But do you have some specific examples? And I'm also interested, are most of your customers in China right now? Do you have customers in other parts of the world? Where geographically are those customers based?
Right. So for weather forecasts or the climate technology, I think the most direct customers is the power stations. And in China, power stations are managed by big corporates, and those big corporates are there are a lot those big corporates in China, but their purchasing comes from individual power stations. For example, there's a power station in Sichuan, or there's a power station in Gansu, and they pay some thousands dollars per year for our weather forecasts or the power predictions. And also, there's also a typical case. Have you heard ant forest in China?
Yes.
Yeah. So they are our customers, and they try to grow forests in the deserts, and they pay for our analysis and the data so that they can understand and know how the project is growing in China. And we also feel very proud of this project because we are helping turning the deserts to forests.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And maybe final question is, like, what's the future of TerraQuanta? Like you mentioned, like the next step is adding second layers, like for example, energy. But where do you see kind of TerraQuanta in the future of digital twinning over the next, say, 10 years going? How significant and what role?
Well, of course, our ultimate goal is to provide a complete digital twin of the Earth. We imagine that we can understand how the world is changing by day or by week, how the forests are growing, how the agriculture is growing, and predict their harvests, and how the weather will be going in the next 1 week or 1 month or 1 year. So our ultimate goal is to better understand, or to say it aggressively, to complete understand the how the Earth is going. That's a very that's really the ultimate goal. But we do have short range goals, and of course we are always approaching our ultimate goals, and we develop new products every day and put it on our data platform. And we do see new customers from new industries every month or every year, and utilize our data, utilize our analysis data into their operation of business. So I think that's the ultimate goal. I think maybe that's unreachable, but that's very high goal. But we are always making progress to that goal.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much, Alpha. Really interesting overview of Terra Quanta and the applications that you're seeing today, where you see Terra Quanta in the future as well. We'll be following your work closely, as I'm sure many others will be. And thank you so much for joining us for this conversation so we could learn more about your goals for Terra Quanta and where you are now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for hosting. Thank you.
Thanks, Alpha.